Good day, friends. I hope you're having a good one. And this video is going live on Monday, so that means that we are at the start of most of our weeks. I hope you're doing really well. This is Tracy Brown, your somatic dietitian and attuned eating specialist. And we are going to talk this week about attuned eating. Essentially, what is it? And what stages are there? What to expect? And we're going to go into a lot of the nuances this week. And so I'm hoping there's something for everybody. Those of you who are more beginners, good morning, Mary. Those who are more beginners and those who are really seasoned, but just, maybe this makes some of these other things make sense for you. And maybe you'll bring up some other questions of, this is awesome. I'm on the right track. Or, it will just kind of let you know what's next. So let's just get started. So the word attuned eating was just a kind of an alternative way that I learned how to speak about, I guess, intuitive eating a long time ago. And it wasn't because I thought something was wrong with the word intuitive eating, but I often thought, coming from my own perspective of someone who had recovered from all kinds of eating disorders, is that it wasn't all that intuitive to trust my body. And it's not because I think the word's wrong. I'm just, when you're sitting there by yourself a lot, thinking about things, you think about all kinds of things. And really what I felt like I was doing was becoming attuned to me. And because I had spent so much of my life outside of myself, getting really hyper vigilant about what everybody thinks, what I should do, what the books say I should do, what my ego says I should be like, whether it's eating, food, how much I should rest, whatever. Becoming attuned seemed like it matched what I was doing. And so that's kind of why I use that word. And I feel like it does encompass intuitive eating. And so I'm going to talk about why that is. So in my opinion, attuned eating is what you all are doing. We're all at different stages, but it's this process of recognizing not just our body's signals on hunger and fullness, but our learning about what all the different sensations might mean. And sometimes we don't know what they mean, by the way. So when I say that, means sometimes we'll have this, you might have this I can't stand beating my body kind of sensation. And it's not always identifiable with a story, or it's not always identifiable with I know that's fear. You might get there, or it may not even be that, but it could just be this is that too much feeling, or this is uncomfortable. And what it needs is, I'm going to go through my self-care, because me thinking my way out of this is probably not going to fix it. Me rationalizing it in a way doesn't make it different or better. So you're just attuned enough to okay, this sensation feels like it needs to run. This sensation feels like it needs to curl up in a ball under my covers. This sensation means I need, it's gripping in my chest, and I can't think my way out of it. So the only thing I think I need to do is just sit here a second. And so you might ask, well, what does it have to do with the food? Well, it's everything, because if you feel this, let's say in your chest, or your head's spinning, or you feel I don't really feel much in my body, it's gonna be really hard unless you identify become attuned to all these things and what it needs. Hunger, accurate hunger and fullness work isn't really all that accessible. So it's really, really important when we're attuned to all these things. Sometimes people say, well, I'm kind of sick of trying to figure out what all this means. You don't have to. It's, can you attune to it? Can you just say, I'm here? I am here. Or what's another way we can say this? Yeah, I think it's I'm here. And you can ask what is this need? Or this is welcome here. Any of that works. Okay, so that's more the somatic sensory stuff, but that's part, I feel of this attuned eating process. So the other stuff is, we're becoming attuned in all kinds of ways. So at the beginning of this process, I'm going to go through different parts of it all this week. So you're going to get whatever I don't cover today. Please don't worry. Put your questions below. But I've got a lot. I got a lot to unload on y'all this week, so it should be good. So when I think about attuned eating, let me just kind of break it down. I think about attuned eating is recognizing what your physical hunger and fullness is, what your emotional hunger and fullness is, what the somatic hunger and fullness is, and understanding that nutritionally, sometimes we know what we need and sometimes we don't. We just make our best match. Sometimes we're really attuned to, I'm not hungry, but I feel like I need to eat. And so that may be some mental hunger, but okay. Then sometimes the only solution for that is to actually just eat. Especially when you're very, very early on in the first couple years of this process, from all the deprivation, there's going to be this deep backlog of all this deprivation of not being heard or seen or listened to or attuned to. And you might just need to eat because that just needs to be honored. And that's not going to be the end of the world, and we have to trust that. So there's that part of the attunement process. The other stuff is that sometimes attunement isn't really just about it's recognizing that, I'm really attuned to the fact that my hunger fullness is pretty on. I am just not trusting it, so I need to work on some trust work. Or that might mean I need to let all this go for a day and just eat and not worry about it so much. Or noticing, I know that's what I need to do, but I'm having a really hard time ungripping, from trying to control everything. And that's probably fear. And so I need some support around that. Attuned eating does mean that sometimes we know we need to move our bodies, and we're really attuned to the fact that we know we need to do that. We could feel it in our bodies, but we don't know what to do yet, and we don't know how to do it safely or in a non-compulsive way. It could be that we kind of know that it might feel kind of good to move, but it's also feeling too revved and ramped up to do it, so we just let it go, and that's more than okay as well. So attunement, it also recognizes that oftentimes we have this feeling that of course I have a body image issue because I live in this culture that that kind of harbors that we're trained to have body image issues, and recognizing that's not necessarily, we might personally have body image issues, but it wasn't created because we personally have a wrong body. And being just attuned to the whole overarching theme that your body's not wrong. It's never been wrong. It's never going to be wrong. It's just really about, that's the soup we live in, and we are learning to excavate ourselves out of it. And that of course it's internalized, so we're trying to excavate that internalized stuff out of us. And so I think that's about it. It's one of those things that of course to be to really truly be an attuned eater and trust the signals and the offerings our bodies are giving us, it's one, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, be willing not to abandon what we hear and learning how to trust that, but also recognizing that you cannot fully probably attuned if weight loss is still a goal, if purposeful weight loss is still a goal. You're going to feel like that I kind of know what I want, but it's so far away I can't reach it. And the thing I want you to imagine out in front of you, to scooch it up to you closer. It's imagine taking your hand and scooching a little bit closer. That hand is going to be this adult competent part of you that says, I can't pursue purposeful weight loss if I want attuned eating to be more reachable for me. And so it's just like what the intuitive eating book says. It's and this is something I say probably I'll be honest. Anybody who's coming to me and they want any kind of recovery, we probably talk about this in the first or second session, is that purposeful weight loss and full-on attuned eating, being free from diet culture, it's almost like if I had to put my two arms together. Purposeful weight loss and these things are just at cross purposes. There's nothing bad or shameful or wrong about wanting weight loss, but just recognize, can we hold space for the want, but not be pursuing it? Because if we do, that's what makes being attuned in your own system and what you're feeling. It can seem inaccessible. I can't quite reach it, and that's because of there's a big part of you that's way over here, consciously or unconsciously, using any kind of restrictive behavior. It can be mental, it can be emotional, to get away from the internal discomfort or the external discomfort. And so again, that's understandable, but just recognize that, like, part of being attuned is recognizing that that dynamic is happening, and that's going to be part of what's driving restricting, binging, purging, over exercise, not knowing body signals. And we just kind of want to bring that to our current full awareness. So the rest of this week, we are going to talk about breaking all that down into different pieces. So I want you to be thinking about what you heard. You might want to watch this video again to see, like, okay, where am I at in this process? What pieces or parts still kind of feel like I'm still reaching, or I didn't quite know that I needed to, like, be putting in place. There's so much more. Of course, we can add in the self-compassion part that we talked about last weekend to all this as well. And I would add to this that part of attunement is recognizing that, you know, we are not going to be the same all the time. Our needs are always going to be changing. We are always going to have, we're going to have a set point range eventually when we get there, and that's going to change. And not so much the major set point, but like where we are in it, depending on all kinds of life factors, that it's going to be really, can we attune to the fact that it's really hard to feel fully safe in this culture with all the stress and the fat phobia and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really important that we're doing our regulation work, and that's part of being attuned as well. And not, you know, beating yourself for, like, why is this so hard? It's, well, because, you know, we've got a lot of internal and external things that our bodies are always tuning into, and some of it's faulty like threat, some of it's real, and knowing the difference between that as well. And that's why this is all so complex. And so when we read the books or we do the things, you know, why some things that people write about or talk about seem like to be just, they get me and I got it and this all makes sense to me and I needed that containment. Whether some people read other things like, oh, that's way too much like diet culture, even though, or it's way too heady and I need to be over here doing this thing with no limits. Be curious about how come that is. And the clue is here that is always based in what you've previously experienced and what you're hungering for. So it doesn't mean that, like, one way of doing things of the other is premier or less than. It just means that this has more to do with what's happening in your system and what we are either leaning towards or rebelling against. And, you know, basically everything has something to offer. It's just getting real clear about, well, what that is. And that's going to save you a ton of time, basically, a ton of time. And then we're going to talk about all those different phases more this week. So this was the intro video to what we're going to talk about this week. Be thinking about where you're at and even reflect on, like how come that makes sense. All right, y'all. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please message me or put them below. Share this with somebody that you know is, like, feeling confused about what they're even trying to do. And I'm hoping this video makes it all more clear. So I think that's for now. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.